They call it dead naming for a reason.
Yeah,
The reason it's called dead naming is because your son is dead. So my son Xavier is dead.
Ever get that nagging feeling your child might be a little too empathetic? Like they just spent 3 hours crying over a sad dog commercial? Well, congratulations, you might be dealing with the latest diagnosis sweeping the nation. The woke mind virus. Symptoms include an uncontrollable urge to preach about social justice while scrolling through TikTok and an alarming tendency to label anything remotely controversial as problematic.
I used to believe that I was born in the wrong body, and the adults in my life whom I trusted affirmed my belief, and this caused me lifelong, irreversible harm. I speak to you today as a victim of one of the biggest medical scandals in the history of the United States of America. I speak to you in the hope that you will have the courage to bring the scandal to an end and ensure that other vulnerable teenagers, children, and young adults don't go through what I went through.
In a recent interview, Elon Musk unleashed a bombshell, warning that this insidious virus is spreading in our schools, indoctrinating our children, and pushing civilization to the brink of suicide.
First of all, what is the woke mind virus? And if we don't deal with this, nothing else can get done. Tell me why you think that.
Yeah, so I think we need to be very cautious about anything that is anti-meritocratic and anything that is that results in the suppression of free speech. So, those are two of the aspects of the woke mind virus that I think are very dangerous. Is that it's often anti-meritocratic. You can't question things.
At the age of 12, I began to experience what my medical team would later diagnose as gender dysphoria. I was well into an early puberty, and I was very uncomfortable with the changes that were happening to my body. I was intimidated by male attention, and when I told my parents that I felt like a boy, in retrospect, all I meant was that I hated puberty, that I wanted this newfound sexual attention to go away.
And no, he wasn't just referring to the state of the public restroom after a middle school dance. We're talking about a full-blown societal meltdown where feelings trump facts and basic science becomes, well, a basic suggestion. So buckle up, because in this video, the woke mind virus explained, a silent killer among us. We'll break down how this virus is infecting our education system and society at large, revealing the bizarre ways it rewrites the rules of engagement, turning reason into rubble. Trust me, this ride is about to get wild. Welcome to the new age of education, where schools are not just institutions for learning, but breeding grounds for the woke mind virus. You thought you were sending your kids to learn math and science? Think again. Now they're being treated to a curriculum that reads like a poorly written social media post. Forget about Pythagoras. Kids are now grappling with the complex theories of why your feelings matter more than any old historical fact. Talk about an education system so upside down it made gravity question its identity.
My name is Chloe Cole, and I am a detransitioner. Another way to put that would be, I used to believe that I was born in the wrong body, and the adults in my life whom I trusted affirmed my belief, and this caused me lifelong, irreversible harm.
Imagine a classroom where students earn credit for taking Feelings 101. In this groundbreaking course, they dissect how to express their emotions about everything from math tests to lunch options. Lesson 1, how to cry on command when you get a B-. And don't forget the homework assignment. Write an essay on why facts are just suggestions. This isn't a bad punchline, folks. This is the new reality. And the teachers? They've traded in textbooks for TikTok trends and memes, proudly proclaiming that
Story time. This has been my first year in preschool with a class of my own. The topic of gender and genitals came up.
I'm a fourth grade teacher. I, Hannah Fandensteel, am a racist. I am a product of the white dominant structure I was raised in.
Try to talk to your teacher about it and explain to them that this is what non-binary people are doing in the language.
who needs facts when you have feels?
Are boys, there's people that are girls. There are people whose gender might be a little bit of both or might even be neither.
But here's the interesting part. As classrooms morph into ideological echo chambers, we're witnessing a dramatic uptick in mental health issues among students. According to recent studies, anxiety and depression rates have skyrocketed, with 1 in 3 teens reporting persistent feelings of sadness. Could there be a correlation between this indoctrination and our kids' mental well-being? It's time for parents to wake up.
Newsom has signed a bill that would ban school districts from notifying parents about a student's gender identity. Staff can no longer be forced to disclose a student's sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression.
So here's your challenge. Reflect on your own educational experiences. Were your lessons rooted in reality? Or were they just another exercise in emotional acrobatics? Question what your children are learning in school today, because it might just be the woke mind virus at work.
The experience that we had in high school and college is not the experience that kids today are having, and hasn't been for, I don't know, 10 years, maybe 20 years. So,
Aren't parents themselves also a big part of the problem?
well, I suppose in some cases but I think like the parents are just generally not aware of what their kids are being taught, or what they're not being taught.
Next up, we'll dive into the world of cancel culture, where the irony thickens and the stakes are higher than ever. Spoiler alert, it's not just a phase, it's a full-on societal epidemic.
Almost synonymous would be cancel culture. And obviously people have tried to cancel you many times.
Many times.
Yeah, I mean,
Every week.
yeah.
From left and right. I've had it from both sides.
Welcome to cancel culture, where free speech goes to die a slow, agonizing death, courtesy of social media mobs armed with pitchforks and hashtags. This phenomenon is all about suppression. If you dare to express an opinion that strays even slightly from the approved narrative, prepare to be mobbed by the digital masses. Remember Kevin Hart? The guy who was set to host the Oscars until some old tweets resurfaced and sent the cancel brigade into a frenzy?
Fallout for Kevin Hart amid some controversial tweets that have resurfaced.
The comedian has stepped down just days after accepting his dream job as host of the Oscars.
Or keyboard warriors who learned the hard way that questioning the woke gospel can lead you to a public shaming faster than explaining what a woman is. And their crimes? Having thoughts that weren't in the woke playbook. Now, here's where it gets rich. The very groups that tout their tolerance are often the most intolerant. These are the folks who pride themselves on being open-minded, yet their brains have clearly fallen out. They'll scream, diversity and inclusion, until you say something they disagree with, at which point it's all pitchforks and torches, baby. We are all playing a twisted game of Simon Says. Simon Says, agree with us, or get canceled. And let's face it, this culture of fear is downright absurd. It's as if we're all walking on eggshells, afraid to utter a word that might be misconstrued as offensive. In this brave new world, we can't have honest conversations because everyone's too busy trying to avoid the wrath of the mob. Newsflash, we're all flawed humans stumbling through life. So how about we lighten up and start talking again, without the fear of being thrown to the lions? Imagine graphics of people getting canceled left and right. Think of the dramatic slow-mo montages of public shaming with absurd sound effects. Picture Kevin Hart dodging social media missiles and J.K. Rowling getting flung into a virtual pit of doom. It's like watching a bad action movie. But it's our reality. But hang on, because coming up next is a look into the wacky world of gender fluidity. We'll explore how this evolving dialogue is not only shaking up societal norms, but also creating some of the most laughable scenarios imaginable. Stay tuned. Look around. This is the dazzling world of gender fluidity, where the concept of multiple genders has morphed into a rainbow of confusion. At this rate, I'm half expecting a gender fluidity chart with more colors than a toddler's art project. What's your gender today? I'm feeling like a weathered hemp tote bag patched with glittered peace signs and rainbow buttons, fully packed of existential crisis. Seriously, folks, it's like a never-ending game of musical chairs. Good luck keeping track. Now, let's dive into the delightful clash between science and feelings. On one side, you've got the biological realities, which are pretty clear-cut. And on the other, the increasingly popular argument that feelings should outweigh all that boring old science.
One thing's clear about sexuality. There's a lot more going on than meets the eye. Some people are gay, some are bi, some are asexual, and some will take whatever they can get.
It's as if we've collectively decided that the biological definition of sex is just too pedestrian for our modern sensibilities. Hey, forget chromosomes. Let's just vibe it out. Who knew feelings could rewrite biology in such a flashy way? But here's where it gets a bit hairy. Literally. We have cases where children are encouraged to explore their gender identities without parental consent, which raises some eyebrows. It's like saying, hey, let's neuter the family pet to control its behavior, but with your child's identity instead.
I had a double mastectomy at 15. They tested my amputated breast for cancer. And I was cancer-free, of course. I was perfectly healthy. There was nothing wrong with my still developing body or my breasts, other than that, as an insecure teenage girl, I felt awkward about it. After my breasts were taken away from me, the tissue was incinerated. Before I was able to legally drive, I had part I had a huge part of my future womanhood taken from me. I will never be able to breastfeed. I struggle to look at myself in the mirror at times.
Suddenly, parenting becomes a wild guessing game. Do I let my kid pick their gender, or should I just stick to traditional human?
Okay, look. Oh, man. Congratulations, Reg. It's a squid.
So, as you ponder whether to keep your dog's gender options open, maybe consider if it's time to let your kid decide their own too. After all, they might just surprise you and choose unicorn today.
Guys, look!
A pink fluffy unicorns dancing on rainbows.
Next, we'll tackle the topic of puberty blockers. What's going on there? And why are these becoming the go-to solution? Spoiler alert, it's a lot like neutering a puppy, but with way more red tape and drama. Don't go anywhere.
What the hell is going on here? Why hospitals are pushing so hard to have kids take drugs that have lifetime effects, long-term effects, and it's not even approved by the FDA?
That over 95% of children who start these puberty blockers end up on the hormones. And the hormones, as well as the puberty blockers, do produce irreversible long-term changes. Now, the argument that puberty blockers are completely reversible is the essence of Mr. Posner's article, and the point is they're not completely reversible. They have been associated with some really severe side effects, such as changes in bone function, particularly, and also some even more troubling ones, such as evidence of some swelling of the brain. There have been some changes that have been observed about the cognitive function of children that are put on these drugs.
Let's talk about puberty blockers. Those little pills that are supposedly meant to pause the roller coaster of adolescence. It's like hitting the pause button on your kid's natural development, which sounds harmless, right? Well, consider this. It's like giving a puppy a squeaky toy, only to rip out the squeaker just as it's about to go crazy with joy. What's even more alarming is the rising trend of parents being kept in the dark about their children's medical transitions.
It's a huge red flag. And you have activists who are teachers. That's a fact.
Yeah.
That's a fact. A lot of the teachers are teachers specifically because they want to be able to influence young kids. That's a fact.
Seriously, it's like a secret club where the kids have the membership cards and parents are just left wondering. Some studies indicate that up to 25% of minors receive these treatments without parental knowledge. Talk about a trust fall gone wrong.
So you have to trust us. So I'm going to count to 3. Just relax and fall, okay? 1, 2, 3. No, wait, no!
And it gets juicier. Take the case of Jamie, a 15-year-old who started blockers only to realize a year later that they weren't quite ready for the adventure. Jamie's mom was totally blindsided. "I thought we were just getting a little me time on the weekends," Jamie exclaimed. But instead, it turned into a whirlwind of medical decisions. It's like a bizarre game show. Guess what's happening to your body today? Only the stakes are way higher than winning a lifetime supply of free pizza. Parents, stay informed. Don't let your kid's medical life turn into a surprise party where you weren't invited. Because let's be honest, managing a pet's life...
They said that the rate of regret is less than 1 or 2%. And they even lied to my parents that I would be at risk of suicide were I not allowed to transition.
Yes, folks, suicide. Complete with diet restrictions and playtime is a walk in the park compared to navigating a child's transition. At least with pets, you can tell them no without a 30-minute debate on their feelings. Coming up, we'll dive into the negative impacts of the woke mind virus on a statistical level, what you, the viewer, can do to help, and the convoluted realm of dead naming.
They call it dead naming for a reason.
Yeah,
All right, so the reason it's called dead naming is because your son is dead. So my son Xavier is dead.
Stay with me, folks. Elon Musk once declared that the woke mind virus amplifies racism and violence. And honestly, he might be onto something. The irony here is staggering. Just when you think we're promoting inclusivity, we're really throwing a massive pity party where everyone's invited as long as they fit a specific narrative. Back to that never-ending game of musical chairs, except now when the music stops, people start shouting, "That seat is offensive!" Take a moment to reflect. We're fighting hate with more hate. It's like trying to extinguish a fire with gasoline. Maybe what we need is a good old-fashioned hug. But hold on, that might just trigger someone who prefers a firm handshake or, better yet, a polite nod from 6 feet away. Do you feel that, folks? The absurdity is palpable. Statistics also show a disheartening trend. As woke ideology rises, so do hate crimes. You'd think that pushing for inclusivity would unite us, yet we find ourselves stuck in a bizarre cycle of outrage. It's as if we've collectively agreed to participate in a game of who can be more offended. The shocking twist finale: everyone loses. So, how do we reclaim dialogue amidst this chaos? First, stand firm against cancellation. Apologizing for a harmless joke is akin to saying sorry to your cat for not sharing your salad. Next, seek out allies who value free speech. After all, you'll need a support group for when you inevitably offend someone, like your friend who can't cope with pineapple on his pizza.
Pizza is all with tomatoes, mozzarella and basil.
I don't
With
give a
the
fuck.
white and red.
Oh, shut the fuck up!
And please, support institutions that promote open dialogue, because we need more spaces where we can share ideas without being shown the door. And speaking of crimes, dead naming. It's like calling someone by their old high school nickname, except now it's a social felony.
Oh, you're Joan now? Sorry, John. I mean, Joan.
What's your name again? So if we are to erase the past of someone who transitions, should Bruce Jenner give back all the medals and erase all of her medals that she won? As for Elon, he's on a mission to destroy the woke mind virus.
So my son Xavier is dead, killed by the woke mind virus. So I vowed to destroy the woke mind virus after that.
Like a digital age Spartan.
Spartans! What is your profession?
Armed with free speech and a flamethrower. He's probably drafting a plan right now to launch a new space mission. Destination Sanity. Get ready, folks, because if anyone can save us from this, it's the guy who thought a car in space was a great idea. So, if you're not supporting local groups, speaking up, and fighting back against the woke mind virus that is actively violating our minds and the minds of our children, then maybe just...
Trying to rape them, so y'all need to hide your kids.
If you want to see more unfiltered takes, hit that subscribe button.
We promise to keep the laughter rolling and the sarcasm flowing. After all, it's a lot easier to laugh at the absurdities of life than to cry about them, especially when you're armed with a piping hot slice of pineapple pizza.
Keep the conversation going and don't miss out on what's coming next.